right, I'm going to continue on before I do. So this is what we've done so far. Main has called fill the array. Main has called print out array in original order. Main has called sort array print out in ascending order. And then a read line. We haven't written this routine yet. We're going to write it now. But you'll notice I can still run the program and I still get that. All right. What we're going to get in a minute is underneath this, down here, it's going to say the array in ascending order is, and it'll be in ascending order. So it'll have the original order, then ascending. Then we'll write the one for descending. Okay? All right, so let's go down to here and write that. So I'm down into this routine. We'll sort the array in ascending order and then print the array. All right. To do that, we call a built-in routine that's called array.sort. And we tell it the name of the array we want it to sort. That sorts the array in ascending order. Did you all hear me? All right. And of course, my semicolon at the end here. Now, I'm going to grab everything we did in this last routine, and I'm going to grab all of it, and then just change the message. So now it'll say the array in sorted order, and I want to run the same thing here. See this? Now, just please stop for just a second. If you would just stop for just a second. All right, I'm going to run this. I think I need a \n here just to be sure. But I want to show you the difference now. So see what we have? You see how now it's in ascending order? Also, just so you know, not only is it in ascending order, how can I tell what the smallest number in the array is? It's the first one. And we're going to put it in descending order, and then the biggest one will be the first one. Does that make sense? All right. So I don't need that \n there. But I want to put in one more line. One more. That says largest equals numbers 0. Because the first smallest, not largest. Because the smallest is the first element. Dominic just said that, and he's correct. So go ahead and put that in, please. And if you don't like sorted, some people don't, say ascending. It doesn't really matter. You can say either one. All right? Maybe ascending is a little better. I don't know. Again, if you want to, look up on the screen. You can copy that whole routine in from up above and then just add the sort line and change the message. Because it's pretty much the same thing, and then add this at the bottom. If you look on the screen, please, what I'm going to do in just a minute when we write the descending, I'm going to copy all this. Then I have to change that to an array reverse and have that say descending. Other than that, boom, I'm done. You may have realized this already, you may not have, but if you look please up on the screen, see this? See that right there? That's exactly the same as this. So I could have written a separate routine and called that routine right there. Does that make sense? It would have even cut down the code I have even more, because then I would have only had it one time. All right? Does everybody have this? All right. Then I'm going to go back And I'm going to save this, and I'm going to run it. And look at the screen. Again, there it is in ascending order. I'm going to run it again. Original, followed by ascending. Okay? I mean, imagine these were the 25 people who lived in our apartment complex. But now somebody comes in and says we have to put them in alphabetic order or something like that. All right? So now we're done with those two. Let's jump back up to main. And I'm going to say here, reverse array, print out in descending order. And I'll call this one then, instead of sort array, reverse array, print out in descending order. Again, as you've seen before, I'm going to get my error message because we didn't write it yet. We will in just a minute. So if you look up on the screen, I'm going to grab everything I just put in for this sort, all of it. Why? Because I only have a couple of changes to make. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard and paste it in. Now I'm going to get an error because I already have one with that name. So I'm going to change this to reverse array, print out in descending order. This routine will sort the array in descending order and then print the array. And I want to change my message here to descending, and this becomes array.reverse. But again, I don't know if you agree with this or not. That's pretty nice. And look on the screen if you would, please. Just going to run it quick. Make sure it works. Look on the screen. See the difference? We now have it in original order, followed by ascending order, followed by descending order. All right? And if I save it, or stop the run and run it again, I'll have the same thing. Ascending, followed by descending. All right, oops, I'll leave that up there for a minute. We actually don't have that much to do anymore. Oh, look on the screen, one more change. That's now the largest, right? Okay, make sure you do that, otherwise the largest and the smallest are going to be the same. That would be incorrect. See, there is a problem with doing a lot of copy and pasting with code, and that is that people a lot of times just, well, I did it right before, and I copied it, so it's got to be right now. It might be, but you might have to change some stuff too, or you might not. It depends on how it's been written. There's a gentleman that, I start taping again. There is a gentleman that I follow online, and he's called The Simple Programmer. His name is John Sonmez, and he's a really intelligent guy. And it's funny because he shows pictures of him, and he used to look like me. But, and I don't mean with the hair, but I mean with the body shape. And now he's really ripped. And he's pretty much done the same kind of thing with programming. Well, this guy was watching him on his videos. And he decided he was going to make a kind of a takeoff of him. Instead of the simple programmer, I think he calls himself the profitable programmer. And his name is Quasi. It really is his name. He's from another country, but he speaks better English than me. And he sells courses. And he's got a course right now. It's $300, and it's basically to help teach you JavaScript a lot more than you typically would get. And I don't think my wife would let me. I think if I signed up, she'd be really upset with me. But I was thinking of doing it because I want to see his teaching style and a lot of other stuff. The point is this. He goes in there, and I was reading some shtick from him. I don't think I've got it up anymore, but I was reading some shtick from him yesterday, and he said, people all the time when they become professional programmers, web developers, whatever you want to call it, they sit there and they go, I don't feel like a professional. I just don't. And what they do is they get a project and they go, I did something similar to this, so I'm going to copy it in. I'm going to start with that. And then they turn around and they think, I was cheating. Even though they wrote it, it was cheating. It's not cheating. Why do you think that Microsoft writes stuff like this? How about so you don't have to? All right? And it's, especially if it's your own stuff, of course, you're not cheating. It's just not. All right? So we filled the array, we printed it out in original order, we printed it out in ascending order and sorted it. We reversed that sort and printed it out in descending order. Okay? And what do we have left? Well, we want to print out the biggest number, smallest number, the sum of the numbers, and the average of the numbers. Do you hear all that? 4 things. Now the good news is, look on the screen, please. Guess what? We've already got the smallest number. We've already got the largest number. So printing those out, we're just going to have to print that out. So those routines literally are 3 lines long each. That's it. Okay? So I'm going to jump back into main. And after my reverse array printout, I'm going to put a comment in here that says print out largest array element. If you'd rather print out the smallest one first, then I'll print out smallest array element. And I don't like to typically do this, but I am going to write both of them. So I'm going to write here, print out smallest array element. Print out smallest array element. All right, so I just added these 5 lines that you see right here. Okay? And again, it doesn't matter if you print the largest one first, then the smallest, or the smallest one first, and then the largest. In fact, if I were to have given you this problem on a test, and I asked it to do largest and then smallest, and Angie did everything right, but she did the smallest and the largest, I would not take a point off. I'm looking at the logic. Did you figure out, is the one that you said was the smallest, was it actually the smallest? The one you said was the largest, was it actually the largest? And if it is, I could care less what order you print them out in. All right? What you're going to notice tomorrow, we're going to rewrite this, and we're going to read, that's what that other one I showed you is. But we're going to have to change some stuff. In other words, smallest and largest, okay, they may change, well, they're not going to change, but we have to change the way, because of the way the user writes the program and runs the program. This, boom, you're running it once. It's doing this, doing this, doing this, doing this, doing this, doing this, and doing this. When you run it, you've got no guarantee over the order in which somebody's going to run the program. So when you've got a program that is a GUI program, you lose some control as a programmer. All right? A lot of times when you write a payroll system, for example, you'll write a payroll system and you'll write it as a console app. You want to run it every 2 weeks. Boom, 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 boom. Nothing changes. You might add employees or remove employees. Who cares? Boom, boom, boom. How many hours did they work, etc. Do they get overtime? Boom. But if you do it as a GUI, you have no guarantee they're going to run it in a certain order. All right? So, let's grab this. Go down to the bottom. And I'm going to say this routine prints out the largest array element. All right. And I probably don't have to reset that to the empty string right there, but I'm doing it anyway. Let's put this over a couple lines because otherwise you're not going to be able to read it. And you know what? You know what the good news is? Look on the screen here. I can also come in and say this one prints out the smallest. All right, this will say smallest. This will say smallest. This will say smallest. All right, let's just concentrate at one at a time. So here's the largest. Go ahead and put that in, but let's double check, make sure it works. Oh, gave me an error. Because I don't know how to spell, evidently. But if you look up on the screen, all right, 90 is the biggest number, right? 90. There's the smallest, 1. Okay? So that appears to all work, and that's got to have a T in there. Okay, and a space there. Okay, so go ahead and please write this one out, and then we'll move up, so we'll write out the other one. Then all we have left is the sum and the average. And they're both about 7 lines long, and then we'll be finished. Now, I'm not printing out hard copies of this, all right? I think Mr. Corrigan is not happy over the fact that he's got to order more paper. It is online. So we are in, we've written main plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 routines. So we've got main, and 6 of the 8 have now been written. Okay? When you guys get done with this one, we'll just move this up. There's the other one. Oops. And there's, of course, a right line on the bottom that's not showing yet. We can make this a little bit smaller. There. There's both of them. Hopefully that's big enough where you can all see it okay. Again, if you copy, change largest, largest, and largest to smallest, smallest, and smallest. All right? I mean, those are just things that they just have to resonate in your head. All right? Now, if Evan turns around and watches this video, he might say, you know, Jeff, I don't like the way that you're doing that. You're having them do too much copy and paste. You make a really good case for that. Because as you're learning, like it's easy to develop bad habits. And you already saw me run it, so you already know that it works. All right. Again, I cannot say that to you, though, too many times as far as write a little code, then test. Write a little more code, then test. Don't see how much code you can write before you test. It's just a really bad practice to fall into. I break my own rules. All right. Tomorrow, though, hopefully what you'll see is there's a lot of similarity. Although there are differences, there's still a lot of similarities between the way we write this for a GUI program and the way we write this for a console program. All right? Okay, I'm not hearing typing, so I'm going to go back up here into my main. Okay? And I'm just going to write them both right now. So I'm going to say here, calculate and print out sum of all array elements, which I called calculate, and print out sum of all array elements, and that's followed by calculate and print out average, I just call that AVG, of all array elements. Copy this line here and change it. So calculate and print out AVG. All right, that's the end of main right there. Main is finished. You have to go back in and write each one of those, and the first one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 lines, and the second one is 4 lines. All right, so we've got approximately 10 more lines of code to write. Okay. Of course, these errors will go away as soon as we write those routines. Okay, everybody have that? So I'm going to move down towards the bottom here. And I'm going to say this routine calculates and prints out the sum of all array elements. All right, and then right underneath that, I'm going to say this routine calculates and prints out the average of all array elements. And you'll notice if you look up on the screen, please, that hopefully at least inside of main where I had those 2 errors, they're now gone. All right, so we will write these last routines in just a second. I want you to be able to catch up. So if you would stop for a second, just look on the screen. Does it make sense? If we had 10, the sum is 99 plus 88 plus 37 plus 18 plus 61 plus 91 plus 35 plus 80 plus 90 plus 100. Does that make sense? And if we take that sum and divide it by 10, that's our average. That's all we have to do. So for the sum, I came in here and again, probably didn't have to, but I reset the output string equal to the empty string. And then I said the sum of all array elements. Again, I'm going to put this over 2 lines just so you can see all of it. Now it's just a simple for loop. All right, for, I don't know what I did there, but I did something bad. All right, try it again. For int LCV equals 0, LCV less than or equal to numbers dot, not less than or equal to, I'm sorry, less than numbers dot length plus plus LCV, and then I've already got a variable called sum. Sum plus equals numbers LCV. So now I've got my sum, so all I have to do now is print it out. Oh, you know how we said this? The sum of all this? Yeah. That goes down at the bottom, not up here. Sorry. That's right here. So you got it, just move it. So the sum is sum dot to string. All right. So that's the output string. And then I just did a write line of output string plus another line break. Simple. That's the whole routine. Again, if you look up on the screen, let's make sure it works. Okay, the sum of all array elements. So that's saying if you add up all these, you should get this. And again, if I stop the run and run it again, I get, the other one was 1337. In an ideal world, all right, in an ideal world, this would equal about 1250, because that's 50 times 25. See what I'm saying? So the numbers were like that. All right. Again, we'll write the other one in a minute. It's 4 lines long, and that's it. Now, I can come back in here and write a lot more comments if I want to, but we have put a prologue in before each method. We have put comments in there for our constants and comments in there for our variables, so it's not terrible. I think I told you, you two may or may not have heard this, but I was in education for 3.5 years, and for lack of better words, I was totally lied to by the people I was working for. They had 3 different campuses that were all within a 100-mile range. I sometimes taught at all 3 in one day. So I had to drive, it was called the Triad, so I had to drive the Triad in one day, which was really terrible in winter time. But they told me that after 2 or 3 years that it would change. So after 3 years, I went up and asked them, and they let me know that it wasn't going to change. I was going to keep doing that, so I quit. And I went into, I had done some work during the summer at an aerospace company, and they had been asking me if I wanted to come work for them. And I did. All right. Point is, I was there for a week and didn't like it, but you can't quit after a week, especially after they spent $5,000 almost to move you. So I stayed there for a year, and I worked on this project that took up most of my time. And again, you may have heard me say this already. It was between 5,000 and 10,000 lines of code, but more than half were comments. I put whole program runs in there. The good thing about putting a lot of documentation in is that it helps you remember if it's been a while, and anyone who maintains your code, it helps them. The bad news is if bad people ever get a hold of your code, you've given them basically the keys to the kingdom, as they say. You know, people think, bad stuff, well, don't worry, it doesn't happen to me. Well, evidently yesterday, my oldest daughter was out in St. Peter's. I think it's called Waffle Horse Park. She was there and with her daughter, and she happened to just for a second, she walked down. There's a little pathway and there's like a river or a lake there. She walked down there and didn't realize she didn't have her diaper bag. She came back and it was gone. She lost her car keys. She lost her house keys. She lost her wallet. She lost basically everything she had. All right. So when we come back in here and we put in this one, again, 4 lines. Again, I'm going to set the output string equal to the empty string. And now I'm going to say the average equals, look on the screen, don't type this, the sum divided by numbers dot length. That'll work, but it won't save me any of the decimal portion. So I'm going to do what's called casting here and say double. Okay, and that'll change my sum. So if my sum is 1,000, it will now be 1,000.0. So it'll keep the decimal place. All right, now I'm going to just grab this. And there it is. Again, let's run it one last time and make sure it works. And looky. I guess I've got one too many blank spaces, but that's no big thing. All right, it doesn't look bad. And I'm going to take for granted at least that the output is okay. Again, could it be wrong? Of course it could be wrong. But I'm just going to take for granted that it's not wrong. Oops. I removed one of those blank lines there. Now it's pretty. Okay, so there is the last one. But if you look in here, and I've got a few blank lines I can probably get rid of. That still is 155 lines. That is not tremendously long for a program. All right? The bad news is, again, if you run that program 1,000 times, you might get 1,000 sets of numbers, but you're going to get the original, followed by sorted, ascending, followed by sorting, descending, followed by small or largest, followed by smallest, followed by sum, followed by average. Would you agree with that? You're going to get that every time. You have no control. In other words, when we write the next one, you will have control. So take a look at it. If for some reason it doesn't work and you need me to show you, someplace else on the screen, can you move up the line, whatever, I'll be happy to do that. And while you are hopefully finishing up, I'm going to give each one of you this. This is what I want you to create. This will be our Gui interface for the program that we will create based off of this one tomorrow. I even told you what to call everything, so that when I write code, you will have the same names for each and every one of your controls that I have for mine. To make it much easier. I have a question for you, and that question is there anything that we just went over that doesn't make sense? Because this is your time to ask. We're gonna switch gears then and start talking about arrays and collections. But as far as the program goes, was there anything we just did that didn't make sense? We could add other stuff in here too. All right, like the range. The range would be real easy because all we would have to do would be say range equals the largest minus the smallest. Boom, we're done with a range. All right. We could have done the median, which is that number in the middle, after we put it in ascending order. So again, if I run this and there's 25 numbers and we put it in ascending order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 4. So right here, if you look on the screen, there's the median, 41. 12 numbers before it, 12 numbers after it. Right here, what's the range? 97 minus 2, right? So there's a lot of other stuff we could do, and we will do some of that stuff when we do the GUI portion of this tomorrow. The thing that's very, in my opinion, is harder to do when you are working with a console program is to do a search. Because you got to do a right line. What number are you looking for, etc. You can still do it, but it's a lot of work. All right? The good news is, when we start working on this tomorrow, C# has an array method called binary search. And it'll look through something and say, it's right here, yes, it's right, and it's right here, no, ain't there. So it'll look through those 25 array locations, and if it doesn't find it, it returns -1, because that's not a valid number. If it finds it and it's at location 16, it'll say, found at location 16. That's what we'll add tomorrow when we create this. So am I right in assuming that all of you can do this? All right. This, again, is a list box control. If you look on your toolbox, it's a list box. I don't care what color you make it. All right. If you don't want to make it a color, don't. I'm assuming that we'll have the buttons here, and the buttons will be in this order. All right. Why? When I start working on it, I'm probably just going to go down, like that. Okay, but it's not that big a thing. I mean, it'll work, and if for some reason I want all these that are on the right to be on the left, then do that. I don't care. You're not turning this in anyway.